I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. First thing, item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from our November 23rd meeting. With any changes, corrections? If not, those will be approved as submitted. Next item is the report of the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor Black, members of council. Just wanted to announce, in accordance with the state holiday schedule, I want to remind everyone that town offices will be closed on Thursday, December 23rd and Friday, December 24th, as well as Friday, December 31st. Note, those dates fall between now and the next time we will be together. And I also want to announce with greatly mixed emotions that tonight is the last council meeting for Miss Sonia Jamies. She has been appointed to serve as the city manager of Jasper, Georgia, commencing the first of the year. And I know I speak for probably everybody in the community in thanking Sonia very much for her outstanding, tireless, and exemplary service to our community, and I certainly wish her every success in her endeavor, and I know she'll do a fantastic job. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Warren? All right. Appearance before council? No? Okay. Council comments? CJ?
I just want to follow up with Bart said. Sonia, I greatly enjoyed working with you. You will be missed, and I appreciate your patience, coaching me, helping me with budgets and line items and all that. You have been a great help to me, and I'll miss you.
I have to echo that, Sonia. Best of luck. It's a big step.
Yes.
Same name, Sonia. You have done an awesome job over the years working on our budget and keeping the books straight here in town, so we will miss you and wish you luck in your future.
You know, I sound like an echo in here. Because, Sonia, you've been great in doing the budget and all. The other thing, I think the town council should also recognize and thank Jonathan Hayden and his minions for their really nice tree lighting service that we had on December the 4th. That was pretty remarkable. We had a wonderful crowd and lots of fun, and our fellows in blue were there, but quiet and orderly. We had a number of merchants open. There were carriage rides and Santa and the Grinch who stole Christmas. I hope he didn't steal it from us. And but that Jonathan should be recognized for all the work he did on that affair.
Okay, first I'd like to congratulate Sonia on her next adventure, being the city manager over in Jasper. George, we're going to miss you. You helped keep our books straight. You helped us with our budget. Thank you for your years of service. Good luck in your next adventure. I know you'll do an excellent job. There's also someone else I'd like to recognize as well. This person's kind of an unsung hero. You see, without this person, almost none of us on council, Bart, would not be able to do our jobs as well as we do it. And for everything this person does for us, I say thank you. That person is Deborah Anderson. Thank you for everything you do for all of us. Thank you. And I'd also like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And on a personal note, Michigan gave me an early Christmas present by beating Ohio State and winning the Big Ten championship. So go blue, hail to the victors. And we've got some great things coming down the pike next year. We need to keep it going. And thank you for everything that everybody here does. Thank you.
First, I would like to thank DW staff, Public Works, the police department, everybody that helped. I mean, that Saturday was a very busy day with the starting with early in the morning with the Peaks of Otter Christmas Classic 5K race, and continuing with the parade throughout town. there was probably, I don't know, it seemed like the biggest crowd I've ever seen there. But it was a lot of people out and about, and then continuing with the tree lighting ceremony. So, you know, that's a long day, and just wanted to say thanks to both of you all and all your staff that helped out that day. Sonia, you know, congratulations. You know, we're proud of you. You know, that's a really good honor to be appointed as a town city manager. You know, you've earned that through all your hard work and everything you've done here. We appreciate it. We're going to miss you, you know, and I wish you all the best as you continue your professional career down in Georgia.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, or next thing for me, I guess, is Mr. Rush has, you know, announced that he was resigned from council. So we have a resolution, and then we'll allow everybody to kind of comment as well. And we've got a few items for Mr. Rush. So, Mr. Rush, would you please come forward, please? Hey, can you hand this stuff to me? Can you hand this stuff to me after I read it? Can you hand me those things after I read it? Mr. Rush, this is a resolution of the town of Bedford honoring Steve Rush for his contributions to the community. Whereas Steve Rush has served Bedford with distinction as a member of council since 2008, and whereas Mr. Rush served as mayor of Bedford from 2019 to 2021, having been elected to this position by his peers on council, and whereas prior to his election to council, Mr. Rush served with distinction as a member of the Planning Commission, served on the City of Bedford School Board, and had a long and distinguished career with Bedford County Sheriff's Department. And whereas Mr. Rush has contributed to the overall stability of the community through his vast knowledge and expertise, and whereas Mr. Rush played a vital role in several historic events and activities affecting the community, including the change in constitutional status from city to town, redevelopment of former Bedford Middle School property, and providing calm and thoughtful leadership during challenging times at both the local and national level throughout his tenure. And whereas Mr. Rush has enhanced opportunities for all citizens through continuing efforts in economic development and improvement of community infrastructure, and now therefore be resolved that the town of Bedford honors Steve Rush for his service and tireless efforts on behalf of our community. Thank you. Got a few gifts here. First thing here, this is a gift from everybody from council. This one we might like for you to open. Mr. Rush has always had been a very outspoken but honest leader, and a couple of his favorite sayings were putting lipstick on a pig and making sure you got skin in the game. So this one represents the skin in the game. And let's get it out and see what this one represents.
We won't even comment on that skin in the game.
Finance director.
You wrap this thing up.
He's got to go back.
Backing up, Kim.
Well, you got a knife in your hand.
Steve, and thank you, like I said, for your many years of service, serving on this council for 13 years. You're always the voice of reason, conservatism, but you always also wanted to make sure we're moving ahead and getting things done in a responsible manner, and we'll miss that voice.
Well, I'm gonna miss that 45 years of public service. I had a job. And I said I wasn't gonna run again. I sleep at night now. Go home and you can't go to sleep or something's in your crawl. It's time to move on. But thank y'all, it's been good working with you. Good luck.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
If anybody else has any comments? Yep, sure.
Well, really, truly, I wasn't sure how far back I should go with Steve. I go back a number of years, 73, 74, so then I thought, well, maybe should not go back that far, because he could probably turn around and say a few things about me, so I'll pass.
I said it before, hard to argue with the results, Steve.
Yes.
You got a lot done, so thank you.
I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for this town, and thank you for your friendship.
All right.
I've always appreciated his honesty and straightforwardness, and so you'll be sadly missed.
Steve, thank you for your service to the community, for being on the council. Thank you for your straightforward honesty. No matter who we pick to fill your position, one thing we can say for sure is they're going to have some big shoes to fill. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for everything you did.
I'd be happy to give anybody else an opportunity to speak if you would like, or staff.
Oh, well.
I mean, that's...
No, thank you. I will echo the comments about Mr. Rush's straightforwardness and integrity, and in my role, I appreciate your candor and your support, and I appreciate you challenging me to be better, and I hope to continue to get better in accordance with those challenges. But yeah, it's been great to work with you because of your vision, and the things you've accomplished will serve this community for a long, long time, and as a manager and a citizen, I appreciate it very much.
All right, thank you. Next, we've got report of council committees. We had a couple committee meetings tonight, the electric committee and the property committee. So,
Yeah, we had an electric committee meeting at 6 p.m. and John passed on some good news, bad news. But talked about the wholesale market price increase, potentially AMP solar projects, potential behind the meter solar project that we're maybe looking at, material shortage, which that supply chain's everywhere, budget decreases in capital spending next year, the open positions he has, and which is never good on the electric side, and the feasibility study that he wants to do at the Snowden plant for low flow in units. So we got a whole lot on the platter.
Okay, and the property committee met tonight around 6:30 p.m. DW gave us some really good information about one of our parks, some things we're going to have to probably work through to try and make everything more fair and try and get everybody on the same page. We've got a little bit of work to do, but we're getting there, and we've got some great things coming ahead.
all right. Revisions to the agenda. The only thing is we have, need to add one closed session for personnel to discuss the vacancy for the council and the process of what we're going to do moving forward with that. So I need to add that to the agenda. All right, next item is a public hearing amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget and making supplemental appropriation. Mr. Warner.
Notice is hereby given that the town council will hold a public hearing at Council Hall to consider an ordinance for a fiscal year 2022 general fund budget amendment Virginia code provides that any locality may amend its budget to adjust the aggregate amount to be appropriated during the fiscal year, as shown in the currently adopted budget. Provided, however, any such amendment which exceeds 1% of the total expenditure shown in the currently adopted budget must be accomplished by first publishing a notice of a meeting and holding a public hearing before amending the budget. This code section applies to all locality funds, that is, the general fund, enterprise fund, capital fund, etc. On June 30th, 2021, the town of Bedford received notification that the town was entitled to receive $6,844,498 under the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds non-entitlement unit distribution. Funding will be distributed in 2 tranches. The first tranche was in the amount of $3,422,249, and that was received on June 30th after the fiscal year 2022 budget was adopted. As a result, the town staff has deemed it necessary to appropriate that amount in additional funds in order not to exceed the total budget appropriation for the year, and authorize use to spend these fiscal recovery funds. Because this cumulative amount of the appropriation exceeds 1% of the currently adopted budget, a budget amendment public hearing is required. A copy of the full text of the ordinance has been available in the town manager's office, published by order of the clerk of the town council.
Okay, with that, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would wish to speak on this matter? No? If not, we'll close the public hearing. All right, next item on the agenda is the service awards. So we're going to recognize our employees tonight that have served various terms with the town, and we have something for their recognition. The first person is Wayne Hale for 30 years of service. Wayne began his career with the City of Bedford as an engineering technician on February 1st, 1991, where he worked as a colleague to the late Dave Ballard. On July 15th, 1994, he was assigned responsibility as Engineering Services Coordinator. His title was changed to Project Administrator effective July 1, 1994, in an attempt to reflect the broad range of talent and responsibility which he has demonstrated throughout his distinguished service to the community. Wayne has received numerous certifications while employed with the town. In addition, he is the resident expert on all things Vdot. Yes, sir. Thank you. Oh. All right, I probably should come down. Let me just come down.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Can y'all hear me or sure. No, you can hear me fine. And I didn't know who this was, but first, Frederick, Foreman, Todd. I was like, who's that? 25 years of service. Todd joined Bedford Police Department on July 1, 1996 as a patrol officer. Prior to that, he served as a corrections officer at the state facility in Dillon. Todd was promoted to sergeant on June 1st, 2003, and to the position of lieutenant on July 1, 2009. Since October 8, 2014, he has served with distinction as chief of police. Under Todd's watch, the police department has made a concerted effort to become a high-performance agency, introducing new community policing standards and policies. In addition, Todd has led the department to garner numerous awards, the most recent being the Distinguished accreditation on November 13, 2020. Todd, thank you, sir. Oh, man. Next is Lisa Bryant, 15 years of service. Lisa joined our team as the deputy treasurer on January 3rd, 2006. In addition to her responsibilities for managing the steady flow of income for town operations, she is also recognized for her dependability and going the extra mile to provide excellent customer service. Lisa will be retiring December 31st, 2021. She has been a vital part of the treasurer operations, and her institutional knowledge will be greatly missed. We are a stronger town because Shannon Phillips, 15 years of service. Shannon began her career as an account clerk within the treasurer's office in the city of Bedford on January 3rd, 2006. She was reclassified as accounting clerk 2 on July 1, 2011, and then to deputy treasurer on July 1, 2016. Shannon has shown tremendous professional initiative, helping to solve many complicated operational issues in the treasurer's office. As a result, her position was expanded to deputy treasurer, office administrator on November 15, 2020. Jeremy Garden, 15 years of service. Jeremy first joined the City of Bedford workforce as a maintenance worker 2 on September 5th, 2006. He was promoted to maintenance worker 3 in February 3rd, 2009, and a crew leader foreman in July 18th, 2016. Jeremy was then promoted to landfill supervisor August 12th, 2018. Prior to joining our team, Jeremy worked for local businesses in the area. Levi Poole, I'm going to read it. Levi's not here tonight, but I'm still going to read it. 10 years of service. Levi Poole was hired on January 10th, 2011. He is a well-known member of the community, and our citizens rely on him for their safety and information. He has taken on many tasks during his time serving the citizens of the city and town of Bedford. He is a bike patrol officer in the town and rides his patrol bike and supervises officers on his shift now who are bike officers. He is the field training coordinator for the department, ensuring our new officers receive the training they need after the academy and ensuring our training officers are meeting the requirements. Most recently, he earned the national record for lap pull-downs for Law Fit. He is a Law Fit instructor for the department. He was promoted to a patrol sergeant in 2016, and during his spare time, he runs a farm in Bedford County. Let's see here. Perry West, 25 years of service. Perry joined the City of Bedford workforce on May 1st, 1996 as an accounting clerk with the finance department. He was reclassified as a utility billing clerk on April 25th, 2000. In this role, he has direct responsibility for the accurate oversight of all individual utility accounts and is instrumental in all facets of the utility customer experience. Andrew Laxton, 25 years of service. Andy Laxton has been a valuable member of the electric department for 25 years, starting out in 1996 on a right-of-way crew and working his way up to become an A lineman in 2001. Very hard worker, Andy has always been available when called off for storm duty, whether it's 20 degrees or 100 degrees. He has worked in all weather conditions to keep the lights on. We thank Andy for his service and look forward to his hard work ethic for the rest of his career. Thank you, Andrew. Garrett Neal Bozell, 20 years of service. Sergeant Bozell is an important part of the Bedford Police Department. He was hired on January 29, 2001. He has been a member of the Bedford City County Combined Tactical Team since August of 2002. He has been a member of several task forces throughout his service to the city and town of Bedford. He served as an investigator from 2008 until May of 2015. In May of 2015, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant and is currently the sergeant supervising the investigations division. Matthew Salman, 5 years of service. Matthew Scott Salman has been with the department for 5 years after his career at AEP. No challenge has been too big or too small for Scott to take on. He took over the utilities engineering responsibilities and mastered all that was asked of him. Long hours, hard work, and innovative solutions to the many problems directed to him have made him an invaluable member of the team. Thank you, Scott. Chase Lawhorn, 5 years of service. Officer Chase Lawhorn was hired as a police officer on April 11, 2016. Officer Lawhorn is an important part of our department, being recognized for his actions more than once during his time working for the police department. He is a driving instructor and a hostage negotiator for the town. He works with a combined TAC team as a hostage negotiator. Officer Longwood was in the first group of officers to earn the title of Police Officer 1. He has recently earned the title of Police Officer 2. Officer Lawhorn has a bright future with the department, and we look forward to what the future holds. Kathy Johnson, 5 years of service. Kathy began her career at the town of Bedford on June 27, 2016 for the Department of Planning and Community Development. Prior to joining the town, she served in the same capacity for Bedford County. Kathy does a great job of keeping up with the Planning Commission, the Economic Development Authority, Redevelopment and Housing Authority, Board of Building Appeals, and the Board of Zoning Appeals, among other administrative tasks. She was instrumental in setting up the new permanent programs in Munis. Kathy is knowledgeable in many operations of the town and is helpful to all, especially our citizens. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate all your hard work and many years of service, and congratulations on your upcoming retirement. Next item on the agenda is an update from Vdot on the turning lane on Longwood and Independence. Mr. Warner, do you?
Certainly, let me introduce our colleagues of VDOT, Mr. J.P. Morris and Todd Daniel, who provide excellent service for our community, and they are here at your request to talk a little bit more about hopefully some good improvements to the Forks intersection out at Old Forest Road, Longwood Avenue Extension, and Independence Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Warner, Mr. Mayor. What I brought with me tonight is some schedule info, which Mr. Morris is passing out to you all now. It's rather busy piece of paper. It's a little easier. Some of you are on the back with a little snake-looking design. So both of them say the same information. One of them is more specific. So this side here is a little more specific. This covers all of our funding programs. So revenue sharing, transportation alternatives, smart scale, of which you all, as you noted, Mr. Hale is the Vdot expert. He is taking advantage of many of those programs. And he is, I think some of that hair that's missing, he pulled out because of it. So, I wanted to hit the schedule highlights. I understood that's one of the things we want to talk about. And then I'm assuming have a conversation, take some questions about the intersection. It may be a repeat of some of the information that you heard from me last time we were here talking about it. So if that's okay. So the main thing about Smart Scale, if the town chooses to use Smart Scale as a potential funding source, is pre-applications are due in March, so March 31, or somewhere about that. The pre-apps due, and what that is nothing more than someone on town staff entering some very basic information in our portal that says, hey, we may want to apply for a project. There are no, you're not committing to anything. It's just a mechanism for us, our VDOT staff and others to understand what are we faced with coming up in the application cycle, because there's a lot of review, there's a lot of development, then there's a lot of review and scoring that goes on for the actual final applications. So March is critical. Then the final app, if the town so chooses to apply for Smart Scale funding, and this is in 2022, will be due in August. And then the resolutions to go along with those apps, which would be a resolution of support from the town council for the project, would be due in September. After all that's done, the project will go through a review process and a scoring process, and the draft 6-year plan will be announced in the spring of 23. And we would see the potential projects that are part of that. There'll be some public hearings that go along with it, and then the final plan will be adopted in June of that cycle. Once again, the pre-app is you're making no commitment, so you could put a pre-app, or ask staff to put a pre-app in, and then make more decisions after that to move forward or not. So that's the schedule. The The project specific at the intersection of Independence and Longwood and Forest Road. So we talked about the right turn lane last time and the roundabout. Those were the two options. I will start with saying it is wholly a town decision on what you decide to apply for, or if you apply at all. And Smart Scale is not the only funding source that you could use. You could apply for a revenue sharing project. The revenue sharing project is generally a 50-50 match, 50% state, 50% locality, so in that case the town would pay half of the cost of the project. Smart Scale would be 100% Vdot state funded, so the town wouldn't have to provide any funding. There are benefits to both projects. Obviously, your right turn lane is going to be much cheaper. And I would caution you, the study that was done by CVPDC, I think it was final in April, that Ms. Zirkle is very aware of, and you all have likely seen. It's got some cost estimates in them. I've got them in my paper here, but I can tell you that data is old. And it's not that old, right? But the construction cost, we're seeing significant increases in construction cost and construction bids for projects. So I caution you when you see the dollar value, it will likely be for the final application for whatever project you choose to apply for will be more than that planning study indicates for a given project. But with that said, the right turn lane would definitely be cheaper. The right turn lane would be easier. The right turn lane would have less impacts to electric utilities, your commercial properties. It's obviously a very much smaller footprint. And it would serve your need, according to the study, and I'm kind of reciting some info out of the study, it would serve your need for a while, but according to the study, what you'll see as we move out 20 years and 20 years, you would start to see a significant decline in service. So I'll go out a little bit out on a limb here, but it's town choice. If you choose to do a right turn lane, and we did something like that, or Bedford County applied for it, we administered the project, but if you know where Thomas Jefferson Road and Water Lake Road is, in the forest area, two-lane, Thomas Jefferson's two-lane, we had no right turn lane going north on 811. And in the mornings, people were going to work, going to school. This was when we still were in school. It was a lot of congestion at that intersection. So you had a lot of people sitting back here waiting in line in the queue. And they wanted to turn right on Water Lake, well, they couldn't do it. So for about $350,000 to $400,000, the county applied for, was successful in getting the funding, and we built a right turn lane. And it did a lot of good. It did a lot of good to relieve that congestion. I don't have traffic data to compare apples and apples at the intersection there in Longwood and Independence, but it's similar. You get congestion, you get queues backed up, and that's what it shows in 2045, the out year of this study, that you will see delay. If you do nothing, you will see delays that we deem unacceptable, failure for that signal. And what that means is that if I'm sitting in that queue, so maybe I'm back at Burger King, or who knows where I'm back here at the Dairy Queen in that queue waiting, somewhere in the length of that queue, that thing will fail and I will not be able to make that light. So I will sit through multiple lights. Well, that's a failure. That's how we define that. So the projection is that in 2045 and out, we will start to see that at that intersection. The turn lane will solve some of that. The roundabout will solve a lot of that. So one thing I did when I left here last time, I'm thinking about, all right, how did they receive my message? What are they thinking? What are they going to do? I don't want to sway you. I don't want to drive your decision. I want to give you some good facts, good data. And then, of course, you all make the right decision for the town. So I hope I didn't sway you last time we met and talked, but there are long-term benefits to the roundabout. It will be different, most definitely, if you choose to do that. we finished, or for all intents and purposes, we are finished with our roundabout at 122 and Harding Road in Franklin County. So for our residency, we cover both counties. That's our biggest impact roundabout at this point. We've got a couple in Bedford County, in Palm Creek Park and New London Business Park, much lower impact. So this is on a primary road, and we're 10 to 15,000 vehicles a day mainline on 122 there, especially in peak season. Now we haven't went through summer obviously with this roundabout. We just opened it a few months ago, but we've got very little negative feedback. We didn't know exactly what was going to come. Of course, I've been through it many times, and it flows very well. It is a three-legged intersection, so it is different from your intersection here in Independence. It does not have near the commercial properties to deal with. And we were able to, one quadrant of it was basically a field, so we were able to offset it and build a lot of it out of traffic, and that was a big deal. So the impact to the traveling public during construction was minimized probably as much as it could be for any project. So main point there is we're a few months in, but it appears to be very successful. And that's you know, traffic volumes, once again, I don't know they're exactly the same, but that is primary road, you know, very much like Independence and Longwood. So, Mr. Mayor, that's what I had as far as me talking about it, and I guess, Mr. Warren, I'll just answer questions, or did you want me to?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
CG, you got any questions?
No, I think you pretty well explained it. Last time and this time.
Yes, sir.
I know you don't want to sway us, but I mean, need to be swayed. If I see a roundabout there, I see a lot of people complaining, but it sounds like you haven't had that experience so far when you've done it.
So, Councilman Shaw, you know, it's hard to predict, but I share your sentiment. I think so. But what I believe, and this is me, because this is how I thought. And I think I may have told y'all last time, but, you know, going back a decade or probably a little less, you know, I'm not sold on roundabouts. It's new to us. We're learning about these new innovative intersections and what have you. And probably like a lot of folks, I'm like, no, we don't need that, you know. But as I learned about them more, I read about them, we got a lot of smart people at Vdot teaching us about them. And then we drive them. You know, now we drive, you go to Myrtle Beach, you're driving through roundabouts. You go to Charlotte, you're driving through roundabouts. And in North Carolina's got them all over the place. And they're starting to, you know, pop up in the Commonwealth as well. And I think, you know, for sure my thought has changed. The safety data did a lot for that, because there is no doubt, there's no debate that it is much safer. Now, we've got some crash history at Longwood and Independence. You know, I forget that it's in the study. I don't know that we've got severe crashes. So if you will, for a minute, I know I'm comparing it to Franklin County, but it's the best comparison we have. At the Harding Road intersection with 122 in Franklin County, we had several severe crashes, and we had some fatalities. For whatever reason, you had individuals that it was a stop sign control, so it wasn't a signal, right? We had some individuals that run that stop sign or pull out in front of an oncoming car. And at the time, it was a 55-mile-an-hour zone, so that's a difference. The speed limits are different. And you would have a side impact, a T-bone crash, and somebody, they would get hurt really bad. And like I said, we had some fatals. So that drove us to that roundabout, because if you remember talking about safety last time, when we enter the roundabout, we're entering at an angle, we're all going the same direction in general. So if there's a crash, and there will be a crash everywhere, it's not a T-bone, it's not at high speed, so generally they will be minor, much less severe, and your injury will be much less severe.
It sounds like that's the number one reason for it.
Safety is probably, yeah, if you had to rank the reasons, the flow, you know, congestion flow is a reason, but the safety data jumps out at you. But now keep in mind, you know, I'm comparing that to a unsignalized 55-mile-an-hour.
That's what I was wondering, Todd. I don't know what's your take on this?
Well, what he said about the traffic flow, and there won't be T-bone collisions at that intersection. We have some intersection crashes there. Most of the ones we have, I think, are rear-end collisions at that intersection, where people aren't paying attention. And that would probably slow down because the cars going into a roundabout usually are moving and don't slow down enough to get hit in the rear. So I think it would, both of them will, I think both situations will help us because the traffic backs up past the Burger King, and that causes some traffic issues and concerns for me because people trying to get in and out of the Burger King Shell station area and in that traffic when it's the heaviest parts of the day. I think both will work for us to get that down right now. It's just a matter of which one. But roundabouts, I think, are safer as far as T-bone collisions, just like his statement.
Yeah, they are. And Chief Foreman mentioned the rear-ends. That is a product of a signalized intersection, and we often talk about that because a go-to for a three-way or four-way intersection for a lot of people where we're having trouble, let's put up a signal. That's the go-to answer. And we work to not necessarily jump to that answer right away because they do generate, although a signal should stop you, but it can create rear ends, and I would say we probably got people that run the red lights and what have
Yes.
you. The roundabout, once again, remember, it physically restricts you. So you don't have a light, you got a yield sign, but you're coming in and you're angled. So, I mean, you could physically blow through it and run across the middle of it and do all kind of damage, but it's unlikely. It's rare. You're channelized is what you are as a driver. So it controls your movements better than a signalized or an unsignalized, obviously, intersection. So safety is a big deal. I will say this too, cost. So I have no way to predict how it may score. JP and I talked about this today. Smart Scale is a cost-benefit scoring process. It is a competitive process. What scores well or what is competitive today may not be competitive 2 years from now in the next round because what we don't know is who's applying for what. So there's X, but we know there's X dollars, and I don't know what will be in the next round, but there's X dollars available. And then the projects will, all the projects that are entered into the portal for the final application will be scored based on some categories and what have you, safety being one of those. And then you get based on your cost of your project, you get a final score. It's got to do with your Smart Scale score related to your cost. And then you get in line. So you don't have to score 100 to be first. You may score 30. I'm just pulling numbers out there here. You may score 30, and you may be first because everybody scored less than you. And there may be enough money to fund 7 of the projects out of 30. And that's how they literally, you run out of money, you stop awarding projects is how it works. So it's competitive, but you don't know your competition until everyone makes the application. With that being said, there's merit with the right turn lane because it's lesser cost. And this is tough to predict, but in theory, your lower cost projects should score better because your cost is lower, right? Now the question is, what's the benefit? So the right turn lane is going to have some less benefit than the roundabout. Long range ultimate benefit. So that will be lower, but with your lower cost, is that enough to make it more competitive, if I'm making any sense to you? The right turn lane I mentioned at Thomas Jefferson and Waterloo, I don't remember where it ranked in that given year, but I don't recall it being close, like being one of the last ones, because it was very low cost relative to typical highway projects. I mean, $300,000 don't buy you much. So that's something to keep in mind. It's a little bit of strategy because something's better than nothing. And you don't have to decide that tonight. So Ms. Zirkle could enter a pre-app for a project, and then it'll go through some type of refinement, development, interaction with the council. Hey, here's where we landed, here's what we believe. And then by August, somebody's going to make a final decision and say, okay, pull that trigger. And I don't want to make it sound like you can wait till August to make that final decision. Ms. Zirkle, they need guidance, obviously, on where do we want to head, so they can work with our staff to develop these concepts to get it into the final application format.
Stacy, do you have any questions?
Well, you kind of answered my question, what you was talking about the financing, because last time you came, you was talking about possibly it would cover 100% of the project or whatever, the Vdot money would, so I didn't know if that would, you was talking about, depending on how it ranks or whatever, it might cover 100%, it might not.
No, for smart scale, it will cover 100%. Now, you bring up an interesting point, Councilman Haley, because let's say that you get a project in the portal, application successful, falls within the ranking, and it gets awarded, and then the locality, the town, wants to make a change. You know what? We didn't put sidewalk in it. We want sidewalk. Well, when you do something like that, then the town could be required to pay that additional cost because now you change the scope of the project. So I know it's not exactly what you were asking, but we see that sometimes, and you know, you think we can make some little changes, and you can make some small changes to the final product, but what you apply for is important because that is where you'll be headed with the money that's awarded for that project.
Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, I know that quite a few of our constituents, including myself, don't really care that much for roundabouts. I personally prefer the right turn lane. When would we need to have our application in by to at least get in line for the project?
Well, you'd have to have your pre-app in by the end of March and your final application in by the end of August.
All right.
Todd, let me ask you a couple questions. I'm obviously probably the only one here that's maybe interested in the roundabout idea. I mean, I think I've talked to some of my constituents as well, and you know, it's different. It's depending on the demographic you talk to. I mean, it's going to be probably what you're going to get back on whether they like the idea of a roundabout or not. I mean, a couple questions about the right turn lane. First, you know, kind of how far back is, I mean, how many cars are going to have to queue before that doesn't really kind of become effective maybe? I mean, because, you know, I don't know how much room you've got there to come back off that right turn lane. So, I mean, if you're talking 3 or 4 cars and then it's blocked from people getting over there anyway, I mean, how effective is it?
Yeah, man, I don't know exactly. I'd be afraid to give you exact numbers. It's
Just
a
a
few
rough
more than
ball.
3 or 4, but I can give you some landmarks. So as you approach the, so it'll be the eastern entrance to Big Orange, you're going to be in your taper. So somewhere east of that entrance is likely your break point for somebody stacking up, and you can't squeeze that car past them if that makes any sense. Distance-wise, in my head, I don't know, but you know, is it a half a dozen cars? Maybe. But keep in mind too that right turn will be. Well, let me put it this way: we didn't make signal adjustments at Thomas Jefferson and Waterway. It's a right turn, so you pull up there and you make the right turn. There are signals, but we don't have a dedicated right turn arrow. You don't need it necessarily. Now, if you choose the right turn lane, you're going to work with an engineer. We may recommend it. I don't know that. But that's going to be flowing pretty freely. They'll pull up, they'll be able to make that right turn. And it's very similar to what happens today. If I want to go to Taco Bell, leaving town, I can get up there and make that right turn, and they move pretty good. It's when somebody wants to go straight and it stacks up waiting on that red, right?
Right.
So it's a valid concern, but I think it will it'll work fine until it stacks up past that pinch point, if you will, with people wanting to go straight through to on down Forest Road.
So,
Call it a half dozen, I'll call it.
I mean, if we go down the right turn lane, I mean, is there, and I know no one's really engineered or looked at it probably in this level of detail, but my fear is at some point we're going to have to look at something further down the road than just that, because I mean, it's only really solving the congestion going this way. It's not solving any congestion coming from Forest. I mean, you're getting more and more backup coming down Independence. You know, if you're sitting at that light. So, you know, Can you engineer, if you do something with a right lane now, would that potentially, I'm not holding you to anything, but potentially be able to be incorporated into a future roundabout? Or is that money you've spent and now it's really, you didn't get anything out of it, but for that period of time between when you're going to have to maybe do something more?
I'd be hesitant to say that the work done for a right turn lane would give you much benefit for a future roundabout. If grades were matched up perfectly, I mean, could you use a little piece of the pavement? Maybe. Sometimes that's more problematic than it's worth. So likely, in that scenario, you would build a right turn lane, and as the study indicates, it's not the final solution. And I'll hit on that real quickly just to give you some numbers. So I'm going to give you a couple definitions real quick. So a level of service, that's what we look at. An A is great, right? It's free flow, no problem. Everybody's happy, just move it on. A B is a slight delay. A C is an acceptable delay of 15 to 20, less than 25 seconds for unsignalized. For a signalized, say 20 to 35 seconds is what we call an acceptable delay. That's a level of service C. A D gets greater than 35, and that's tolerable but not preferred. And then we get to an E, is intolerable delay. That's 55, greater than 55 seconds of wait time. And 55 seconds, it's less than a minute. But it must feel like how long when we're sitting in the car, a long time. And then we get greater than 80 seconds, that's an F. That's a complete failure. I mentioned the Q's fail, where I can't get through that light on a single green. So, according to this study, 2045, if the turn lane is built, you will have in your PM peak traffic, which is likely people getting off work and that sort of thing. You at your left and your right, your left and your through movement will go to a D. That's eastbound. Westbound, your left turn goes to a D, and I know we're not talking about right turns, but these are just examples. Your right turn actually shows no delay, which is, interesting. And if we're going southbound on Longwood, we're in D's and C's. So I don't know that the detail matters other than the D, right? So we build a right turn lane. In some pieces of that intersection, you will have a tolerable level of service, but wait times as much as 55 seconds, or delay as much as 55 seconds. If you build a roundabout, you have nothing but A's and B's, no matter what your movement is. Now, once again, we're 25 years out that this projection is being made. So I think to your point, Mayor, that you will, if you build a right turn lane, it appears, based on whatever data they used, that in 25 years you will have tolerable delay, but it won't be preferred on some of your movements. You'll still have that right turn. Once again, it says no delay, right turn lane. That's westbound, Forest Road, and you've got your eastbound is a B. So we're at less than 20 seconds, or greater than 10 seconds. So I don't know when road rage starts, Chief, but when you get up to 80 seconds, people aren't happy. So.
And if you were gonna, and then the smart scale process, you mentioned that just because the cost benefit might be better on the right turn lane, but is it really gonna provide enough benefit from that? To me, that you're just solving a small piece of that intersection's problem. How does smart scale kind of look at that? Are they more favorable for something that's going to solve the whole thing the first time around? You don't we don't have to Vdot and have to revisit that intersection, or do they are they okay with kind of pieces at a time?
I don't know. That's a hard question to ask. Because will the roundabout provide more benefit? Yes. So that will obviously affect the scope. But as far as the department and different ones reviewing the applications, I would say they wouldn't look unfavorably on a right turn lane. It's not going to get bonus points for anything. I don't know. I'm struggling to answer it. Because it is about the benefit of the project and the cost of the project. That's what it boils down to. And it's about your competition, and none of us know what that's going to be. You could very easily apply for the roundabout, and it wind up 15th, and we fund 11. Bedford County has applied for many projects, and they've got several that have been funded, but they've also had a handful that did not get funded because the money ran out before we got down to that row in the spreadsheet.
That was going to lead to a question about that. So if you apply, you turn down, does it automatically stay in the queue?
No.
You have to bring it out, and then in the next 2 year period reapply again.
You'd go through the same process. It's a 2 year, every 2 years. The even years is when we're in our smart scale process for the application. The good thing, a positive, if you don't get awarded, is you've already done a lot of legwork.
Right.
So there's usually not a lot of need, unless you have some significant changes to your area, to change your application.
And I'll just wrap up procedurally for your benefit as well as our colleagues at Vdot. At our February retreat, we will put you on the spot to talk about this in greater detail, particularly if you want to pursue a smart scale project.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, if we decided that, between the two, but go ahead.
And we have other priorities for street and configuration improvements that will be the responsibility of town-generated revenue, so we've got a few topics to talk about in a couple of months, which will be here faster than that.
Right, no.
One thing, Mayor, if I could add, we've learned some stuff in smart scale over several years. We, being VDOT, we didn't encourage, require, advise the localities to reach out to their citizens that may be affected by a given project early on. And there's a public involvement process that's required by law, but just if whatever project you apply for, if it gets awarded, the project will go through that public involvement process. Now that process happens after the project's awarded, after preliminary engineering phase has started and we are designing and we've got a given percent level of plans, and we come to the public, and that is absolutely not a time to say, oh, let's cancel the project. I say that because, we've learned. We do encourage localities, not that y'all need to do this now, but we encourage localities to get some feedback from especially the adjacent property owners, because that's who you were directly affecting on whatever project you do. And then whoever else you may choose to reach out to, obviously that's a town council decision. I just want to say that because it is important. If you choose to apply for a project and it's awarded, you will lose control or will lose the ability to pump the brakes or stop the project. You could request it to be stopped. It falls basically on the CTB member, and it's Dr. Ray Smoot for our Salem district. That would become his choice and his counterparts on the Commonwealth Transportation Board at that point. There have been projects canceled for various reasons, but I do some stuff I've learned. I want to make sure the council is aware of that, that you are applying for a project, but then VDOT takes over and administers that project most of the time. And canceling it, if you get knee deep in it, and it's like, oh, I don't want to do that, it becomes problematic. There is a provision in our smart scale guidance that if a project is applied for, awarded, and we move into engineering, and the locality wants to cancel it, the locality could be asked to pay back some of the costs that had been incurred for that engineering up to that point. That does not always happen, but it is in the language. It's important to know that. So not to scare anybody, but it is something that I'm making sure that boards such as yourself are very aware of. When you make that decision and staff does their job, applies for it, if it's awarded, we're typically moving forward.
Bart, I mean, we're talking the February timeline. I mean, is it something we should maybe try to have some kind of, before, I'm just thinking out loud, now, we're in the process, should we maybe have, the people that did that study, maybe, that was what, a couple years ago?
Yeah, and I was kind of engaging Ms. Zirkle and SciComm, so we've done quite a bit of prep work with the study through Central Virginia Planning District, but
Just to get it.
certainly if you would like for us to engage further and want to direct us to do that, we'll do that. I'm sorry, I guess it's basically your call to make, but we'll.
Yeah, that's something, we need maybe,
You had said you thought you were the only one. I'm open. I mean, I like what I'm hearing. I like the long-term benefits to it, but I'd like to learn more. But I'm certainly
yeah,
open to the
and
roundabout.
I'm not committed to it, but I think it's just.
Mayor, can I make a suggestion?
Mm-hmm.
So in this study, through the PDC and PPR, Clark Nexus. So you got an engineering firm that did this, and Mr. Warner, stop me if I get out of line here. But, where are the entrances? I mentioned this last time. You got commercial properties on four corners. You will have some type of access management that's involved in this. If there's a roundabout, potential access management to the big orange entrance, that eastern entrance as well, even with the right turn lane. But there's a couple concepts in there. One includes pedestrian accommodations, one does not, and that stuff's important. I think the sidewalk ends at the Dollar General right now. Doesn't go in front of Food Line or what have you, right? I don't know, does the town ever connect all that sidewalk? But it matters, and my suggestion might be that if the engineering firm or someone could come actually talk about the different concepts with some type of display and say, hey, this is how it will affect A, B, C, and D.
And I know we did that when that study first came out, but I guess if.
I don't want to sway you, but civic engagement is always the correct answer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, we did it at that point in time, but if we're seriously going to really contemplate doing something with this intersection, I think it would behoove us to do something like that again, to give,
And understanding it, Councilman Shelton mentioned understanding it better. For example, I don't remember exactly, but every roundabout's not the same. If I remember right, if I'm traveling east on Longwood and I want to take a right and go south on Independence, I've got a right slip lane in one of those concepts. So I don't stop. I don't go through the roundabout. I get in this right-hand slip lane and I go and I merge in with Independence traffic. Same thing if I'm going north on Independence and I want to take a right and on Forest Road. I've got a slip ramp, we call it. So I just get in this right turn movement and go in here and I merge into traffic. I actually never enter the circle, if you will.
That's what we would need.
That's important
Educate
stuff,
these.
because if you
Right.
talk to your citizens or your business owners, how much land does that take? What am I going to do to your interest, Mr. Advance Auto? I don't know for sure, and remember, it is a concept.
Right.
There's some field survey would have to be done that has not been completed, anything like that. But if I was a business owner, those are the kind of questions I would want answers to.
Well, we got any other questions or comments on
I don't think it hurts us to get more information as to what we're going to be doing. I'm not in favor or not against it. I've heard lots of folks talk about it, and some of them have told me other areas they hated it. But there's other folks that have said that, and I've driven the one that you just put in, so it was fine. We were kind of surprised. It suddenly appeared, there it is. It was like, oh, we hadn't been that way for a while, so.
Hey, it was funny, I almost forgot to tell you this. I was coming from Salem. I've been in Salem today, and so I'm entering the roundabout at Alton 220. If you're coming off 81, coming this way, you've been through it. And there was a car in the roundabout. So I'm approaching, and another car in front of me. The car in the roundabout stopped and waited for the car in front of me to enter the roundabout, which is totally incorrect. But it was just an unfamiliarity, and you're going to see that. We're going to see it. We're going to see it again and again.
Don't know the right-of-ways anyhow.
Many times they don't.
Well, and that's a good point, and that's what I'm hearing from the people I've talked to around Bedford. And it's a generally an older group. It's a lot of retirees here, and are currently moving here, out of state. So that's what they tell me. And I think I told you last time, it's confusing at times until you get used to it.
Yes, sir.
Because, I mean, the few I go through in Lynchburg, I have to stop and think, okay, I see a car coming the opposite way, okay, do I stop or not? You know, they are confusing. Now, I will say, I go to Myrtle Beach twice a year, and I've yet to see one going down there.
You go to 38? I don't know how you, I don't know how
No,
you travel.
no, I do not.
The two I referenced were on
I'm
38.
using pulling a trailer, so I stay on the interstate as much as I can. But I'd be interested to see how they work with a trailer.
So good point. 122 went through the one at 122 at Hardy Road, and it's got what's called a truck apron. So
Okay.
you've got your paved road area that all of us would use in our passenger vehicle, and then the next part of that circle is a concrete apron, and it is designed, 100% designed for trailers to track up on. Now, generally, we're talking about larger commercial vehicles. Depending, you pull a lawnmower trailer, you may not track up on it, but your tractor trailers and stuff like that will absolutely track on it. And we saw that over in Franklin County. That was an unfamiliar piece because people were complaining about this is too small. The tractor trailer can't go through it without getting up on the curb. You're exactly right, because that is the purpose of that truck apron. It's a concrete reinforced apron. It's got a little decorative look to it, and they put a color on it.
Yeah.
But its sole purpose is to.
The one at Falling Creek has an apron on
It does, but it's flush.
it.
So it's funny, we could talk about roundabouts all day long, but the one in Lynchburg is a mini roundabout there between the Lowe's and the Sam's and the Walmart and what have, or Sam's and Best Buy and all that. That's a mini. But the one at Fallen Creek Park has got a flush concrete apron. The one at 122 and Hardy Road has got it's about a 3 to 4 inch rise, but it's a slope face curbing. So it's designed to keep you and I off of it in our POV, in our passenger vehicle. You don't need it. But it's also designed to easily be traversed by the rear tires of a trailer. And you know, you're going slow. The larger vehicles are going even slower through these roundabouts. So it's not a huge disruption to get that trailer on that apron.
I think the one that y'all built several years ago at Mayflower Drive and Oddfellows Road seemed to has worked well. Of course, you have a lot of truck traffic on that one.
Yeah.
And,
I'm not as familiar with those. You know, it's Lynchburg District, but I know exactly where you're talking about. I've been through it.
yeah.
And you said it until you get used to it. And that's what I think you'll find
That's the key.
with a lot of these citizens. I mean, they're teaching it in school. I got one daughter still in high school, and she's doing driver's ed this semester, and they have to learn about that stuff because it is becoming more prevalent in the Commonwealth and the United States for that matter. So you know, maybe when we quit driving, the kids will all know how to do it, piece of cake, right? If they're not on their phone. So.
One other thing real quick, I think Barton, you've talked a little bit about Macon Street, maybe down the road. You know, obviously, if we come, I mean, I'm not, but is that something?
Potentially. So Ms. Zirkle and several of us met with our planning staff, just to kind of, hey, it's out there.
It's out there,
You know,
yeah.
hey, we got, what do we need to do? So DRPT is involved, Mr. Morris is involved, and there's a lot of unknowns about who will fund what, and Mary May can talk about that better than I can, but it has potential to be a smart scale project that you may want to apply for. I don't know that we're ready to answer a lot of questions on that yet.
But I just
And
wanted
there'd
to
be
get.
several different angles we could go at it if we decide to go at it.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully DRPT is going to fund the load of it and
That'd be
everybody's
good.
happy.
Yeah,
But I just don't know if you've heard anything new on that. So,
okay.
but yeah, that would be, it should be an eligible project. It's a little off the beaten path because it's Macon Street, so it's not an arterial street, it's a local street, what have you. But in that call, we were tossing around a few strategies to see if it would screen in. And did we confirm yes or no yet?
I'm working with Carolyn Maker, the planning department, our planning department.
Okay. I just want to make sure it was on your all's radar and that we're all working, you
Yeah.
know, because.
At the town staff level, we think that's something we want to pursue. Certainly, how we do it is going to be in conjunction with Vdot, DRPT,
So there's a plan.
and the timings.
Yeah, nobody
key
knows what
things.
the timing is.
There's a planning sheet that our folks in the district keep for all the localities, and that was the purpose in that call. Let's get this on this district radar. because they're key to that. That's we have a lot of moving pieces,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Okay. Fair enough. Anybody else got anything for Todd? Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, next item is ordinance amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget and making supplemental appropriation.
I'm not going to repeat the guts of the public hearing unless you want me to.
No.
Basically, if you want the ARPA money, you have to amend the budget. Tonight, we are requesting that you adopt the ordinance amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget and making supplemental appropriation in the amount of $3,422,249.
We have a motion.
Remove
I make a motion to adopt the ordinance amending the financial year 2021-2022 budget and making the supplement appropriation in the amount of $3,432,249.
Second.
22,000. You said 30.
I'm sorry, forgive me.
Let's get the right number.
Yeah.
I know technically, but we better.
All right, so we have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? So potentially, will a second tranche come in this fiscal year, so we will need to do it again when we get the
Whenever
second?
we get it, we'll have to do it.
When we get the second tranche, okay, that's fine enough. Knight? Roll call.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Sherwin?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 6 ayes.
All right, next is, we need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3711A3 of the Code of Virginia of 1950 as amended for the acquisition or disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position.
Of the town. Mr. Mayor, did you want me also to read off the motion for the other item that you had on
For
there,
the
for the
personnel?
personnel item?
I've got it here, so
Okay.
do you want me to read both of them? Or I was gonna read that one, get a motion to second, vote on that one, and then
Oh,
Can
They
can
did
you
the
vote
second
on
one.
both of them at the same time?
you could vote on
vote
both
all
of
at
them
the same time?
together.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
so, we've got bear with me, my night, where'd you get it here? Here it is, all right. And then I also need a motion, or can it be in the same motion?
I think it can, Ken.
It can, Mr.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So then, a motion to enter closed session pursuant to section 2.2-3711 subsection A1 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended for the purpose of discussion or consideration of prospective candidates for appointment of specific public officers, namely specific applicants to fill the currently vacant position on council.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Okay, Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Sherwin?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 6 ayes.
For the first part, staff's welcome to stay.
Hereby certifies that one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the council.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. I'm sorry.
Mr. Sherlin?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 6 ayes.
All right, so this meeting will be adjourned until December the 29th at 5:30.
That's a long meeting.